Hi guys, it's Madison, and I'm just going to jump right into this and talk about The Adventures of Beagle by Dan Santat. So I think the mood actually changes throughout this story, and I'll explain why I think that. So in the beginning, there is lots of hope, and that is reflected in the amount of color we see in the illustrations. But as Beagle starts to lose his hope, and he decides to venture out into the real world himself to find his human friend, we see a huge change in color, and suddenly everything is in grayscale. And the only pops of color we really see for a few pages are Beagle himself and then the imaginary friend he spots in the crowd. So this dull style, I guess, of illustration contributes to a mood of hopelessness. And at this point, the text is saying or alluding to the fact that there can be very little creativity and imagination amongst the adults, I guess, in the real world. And then once Beagle reaches the playground and he sees all the children with their imaginary friends, we get all of the color back, and this lasts throughout the rest of the story. This all contributes to a happy, hopeful mood. And at this point, the text is saying that there still is imagination and creativity in the world, especially among young people. I think that's really all there is to say about this one. It's a pretty straightforward interpretation. Grayscale equals hopelessness, and color equals hope. So next I'm going to talk about design, and I'm going to be using this book, Just a Dream, written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg, as an example. So this story is about a young boy named Walter, and he is not very friendly to the planet Earth. He litters, he doesn't recycle, he laughs at his neighbor who wants to plant a tree for her birthday, but he's also very interested in the future, and he wonders if there will be flying cars and robots and all kinds of fun, cool, stereotypically futuristic stuff. So one night he's pondering the future, and here he is going to bed, but he ends up time traveling to the future. And here in this little square, we see a preview for where he's going to end up. So I know that the article Design Matters kind of frowned upon this simple style of a boxed illustration with the text below, but I think it's really effective for this. So here we see the preview for where Walter is going to end up, and then we turn the page and we see a full 2-page spread of where he's ended up, and here he's in a landfill. And we turn the page again, and here we see on this side just a little interaction he has with somebody in this location of the future, and then he falls back asleep, and we see another preview for where he's about to end up again. And so it kind of makes you wonder, where is he? You see some leaves, and you turn the page again, and you see another full 2-page spread of Walter, and this time he's in like an area of deforestation. And this kind of goes on throughout the rest of the book. So here he is again, a little preview. Where could he be this time? Turn the page, and he's here. So, like I said, this goes on, and basically throughout this journey, Walter starts to realize that if people keep treating the planet badly like he has been, it will have pretty serious consequences, like apparently a hotel on Mount Everest. That one's kind of silly, but at the end he realizes that he needs to start being kinder to Mother Earth, and he recycles and he plants a tree for his own birthday, and in the end he travels to the future one last time, and this is what he sees. He's in his neighborhood, and here's the 2 trees that were planted for his and his neighbor's birthdays, and all is well since he decided to be kind to the earth. I know that, like I said, the article kind of frowned on that style, but I think it was really effective for a story like that, and the little preview pictures kept me anticipating where he was going to be next, and I think it would be even more effective for a younger reader as well. So as for illustrations, first I'm going to talk about this book, Lenny and Lucy, written by Philip Seastead and illustrated by Aaron E. Stead. And this is a story about a little boy named Peter, and he's moving into a new home with his dad and his dog. And as you can see, it's a really distinctive style of illustration. So Peter is really afraid of these dark woods that actually end up being across from his house. And as you can see in this photo, his house is also dark and gray. And these little pops of color that we see last throughout the rest of the book. So here's a pop of color in his dad, in his dog, and in Peter himself. And here we see even his floral wallpaper in his room is completely gray, and then we can see through the window the scary dark woods. And Peter ends up making a little guard for the bridge, so no scary things coming for the woods to his house. And he names him Lenny, and he's a pop of color as well. And then he makes a friend for Lenny because he's afraid he'll be lonely, and he names her Lucy. And here she is, a pink pop of color. And then the last pop of color we see is this little girl named Millie. She is red, and she is Peter's neighbor, so he's made a new friend. So I think that overall the illustrations in Lenny and Lucy reinforce the text. So we are told in the text that Peter is afraid of the woods and he doesn't want to move, and that he makes Lenny and Lucy to be guards and to make him feel more comfortable. So in my interpretation of this was that the gray of the woods and of his wallpaper in his room and of the house itself show how claustrophobic and like suffocated and worried his new surroundings are making him feel, and basically shows how Peter fears the unfamiliar and the unknown. And these dark colors really amplify the pops of color we see, and I think those pops of color, like his dad, his dog, the 2 guards, and Millie, they all show things that he's either comfortable with or things that eventually make him happy. So overall, I see that as reinforcing the text. So the last book I'm going to talk about is The Pirate Queen, written and illustrated by Emily Arnold McCulley. I initially picked this up from the library just based off of the name because this is something I would love as a little girl, and honestly, I still really liked this book even at my age. So it's a true story actually about a pirate queen from old-timey, I guess, Ireland, and her name, I believe you pronounce it, Grania O'Malley. And I think, well, first of all, as soon as I opened this book, I was blown away by the illustrations. They're absolutely beautiful, and throughout the whole book, but that one might be my favorite. And I think that the illustrations overall establish a setting. So obviously she's a pirate, so she's out at sea a lot, and this, for a picture book, is pretty text heavy, as you can see, and It's a pretty long story and talks about the setting a lot in the text. But because this is takes place in such an far past time, I guess, the illustrations can be really helpful for young readers. So, for example, at one point in the story, Grania owns a lot of land, and they talk about the land, but they also give this really helpful illustration, a map of the land she owns in the cove, and it shows readers what that might look like. Even though we heard about it, it helps us picture it. And then another really good example is Grania goes into London, and contemporary readers will picture current London skyscrapers and all that jazz. But this is what they show us of the London of Grania's time, and it's very different from what contemporary readers would picture, especially children. So while the text does discuss the setting, I think that the illustrations really help establish a setting and show readers what the UK was like in that time. I think that's all I have to say for this week, so I hope you guys have a good morning or night whenever you're watching this, and I look forward to reading your guys' responses as well.